So now I want to show you another extreme. So let's say you're already given the Java code for selection and sort. Now, how do you derive the running time? Okay. Number one, in order for you to derive the running time, you don't necessarily have to understand the complete details about every line. You can just go line by line and do the analysis. Okay. So just to start with, let me emphasize the point. You don't really need to. Not necessary to understand the logic of algorithm if your goal is just to derive the asymptotic upper bound. You can simply just look at the code structure and then derive it. Right? We do things separately. If you really want to understand about the logic for the code, you got to do the tracing exercise that we kind of showed to you. Right? All right, just for this one here. Okay. Why don't you guys take a quick look on the selection sort? Again, you don't need to understand the logic completely. Right? Look at the code structure. See the loop counter, see how many nested level do you have, and also about how many times each line is going to be executed, right? Plan something, and that we'll go over, okay? This one here, very similar to triangular sum, actually, but it's not exactly the same, similar. Just I'll pause for 1 minute, you guys can take a look, and then we're going to go over. Especially, a little hint, if I may. Think about how many times line number 3 is going to be executed. How many times line number 5 will be executed. Also, how many times the block consisting of line number 6 to line number 8 will be executed. So these are the 3 questions you want to answer first to yourself before you can start deriving. Okay, one more moment, and then we'll get started. Okay. Okay, so let's now take a look. Right? Let me just talk about them line by line. Okay. First of all, the indentation. This is the outer loop. That means this particular indented block over here is the body of this outer for loop. Agree? Accordingly, this line here and also this block over here, this is like a phase number 1 for outer loop. This is like a last phase for the outer loop. The number of times they will be executed only depends on how many times the outer loop is going to iterate, which only depends on the value of I. All right. So now let's now write it down. This one here and this one here. So number of executions depends on the value of I right here. All right. Questions? It's okay? It's critical. Right? All right, what about line number 5? You can see that line number 5 is indented inside the second for loop. So that means the number of times this is going to be executed depends on both the I and j, the loop counters, combination. So that means we've got to do something similar to triangular sum to draw the table. Let's write this down. All right, so here, I'm just going to make a quick annotation here. The number of execution for line number 5 depends on the values of I and j combination. each combination of I and j is going to correspond to one single execution for line number 5. Individually, they cost only 1, right? So this block, this line here, just constant. It's just about variable assignments. This one here, line number 5, is also cost 1. Right? That one there, just about array indexing, relational operation, variable assignment. Right? And finally, line number 6 to line number 8. That one there is really doing the swap. Right? If you look at the swap a little bit more closely, you don't need to, but you got array indexing here, you got variable assignment, etc. Constant, right? Overall. That one there is also constant, just 1. So we just need to figure out the patterns for I and j. That's all we need to do. Let's draw the table as we did for the triangular sum. So for I, I'm going to use purple. For j, let me use green. These two. Okay. Let's first of all start with the value of I. It's going to be from 0 all the way up to and including n minus 2. Because you got less than or equal to, right? Not less than. So what we get is we got 0, we got 1, we got 2, all the way to n minus 2. So these are the values of I corresponding to all the iterations for the outer loop. And we can count accordingly about how many iterations. It's really the interval between 0 and n minus 2, right? Our little formula tells us we can do n minus 2 minus 0 plus 1. n minus 1 iterations, precisely. N minus 1. We're okay with this? Just for the outer loop, just for I alone. And then the j value depends on the I value. As you can see here, j initially just to be I, and then go all the way up to and including n minus 1. Not difficult, right? We did something very similar in the triangular sum. Let's do it. So with that one there, j will be, starting value should be just I. 0, 1, 2, all the way to n minus 1. When I is equal to 1, j will start accordingly from 1. And then 2, all the way to n minus 1. When I is equal to 2, j will start accordingly from 2, all the way to n minus 1. When the last value of I is n minus 2. In that way, j will start with n minus 2, right? N minus 2, and then all the way up to n minus 1, which will be just next number, right? Good. If you're able to get to this point, that's very nice. But the most critical step is to interpret the table. We want to see how many combinations. One combination 0, 0, another combination 0, 1, and then we got also 0, 2. Right? How many exactly? So what we do is, for this one here, we got between 0 and n minus 1. For this one here, we got between 1 and n minus 1, right? I'm just talking about the beginning all the way to the end. And beginning all the way to the end. As you can see, the interval is shrinking. Beginning also to the end, right here. That will be from 2 to n minus 1. And beginning to the end. So that one there will be from n minus 2 to n minus 1. Right? Let's see the size for the interval. What's the size here? N minus 1 and n plus 1? N. N minus 1 minus 0 plus 1. So this one here is going to give you n. And this one here is going to give you n minus 1. Right? You can double check. N minus 1, and then it's going to get decreasing. And n minus 2 all the way to, what's this? What's the size? 2, right? Exactly, right? Double check the math, right? If you got any trouble, let me know. I can work it out with you. It is indeed, again, arithmetic sequence. All right? Now we got all the information we need. Let's now gather them together, do the big O. Okay, let's do it. So what we do is, we can now do big O. Let's now talk about this line here. Line number 3. Each execution will be cost 1. How many? Depends on I, which would be n minus 1. N minus 1 multiplied by 1. So the 1 here really is about line number 2. And this will be the value for I. And similarly, we can also do n minus 1 multiplied by 1. And I'm just writing them separately, right? Yeah, just make sure it's complete. And this one here will be line number 6 to line number 8, similar. Line number 6 to line number 8. And we also got I iterations. Well, sorry, not I iteration. The iteration corresponds to I value. That's what I meant to say. And then, what we do is, we're now going to sum up. Okay. I'm running out of space, so I'll just change to a new line. Plus, so this part here. This part here is going to be about how many times line number 5 is going to be executed. So line number 5 will be just 1. This will be line number 5. And how many times? We got n plus n minus 1 all the way down to 2. N plus n minus 1 plus n minus 2 plus all the way down to 2. Right? We've been doing this sequence for the 3rd time already today, right? So hopefully you'll get more and more comfortable with it. This one here, again, let's now consider it separately. Beginning plus the end multiply how many terms? N minus 1, right? Here you can see how many terms do we have? N minus 1, corresponding to how many values we have here. All right, double check. So that would be n minus 1 divided by 2. All right, that would be sufficient. Okay, don't need to simplify any further. That one there apparently is going to be n times n, big O of n squared. So that would mean this term here, n squared, is going to dominate over the lower term right here. So the dominating factor is really about how many times this one gets executed. This one here and this one here simply correspond to lower term. We can drop it for approximation. So that would be just big O of n squared. And the important thing is to see this result over here is consistent with the selection sort we did earlier. You can see either we're given the Java code or we're only going to visualize the critical steps. They should give us the consistent result.